I think the rest of the world caught on to the concept of APM a lot earlier than India, and this is largely to do with their basic IT maturity. So technology adoption in the US and the rest of the world started much earlier than India. That's not to say that India is being a laggard in APM adoption. We still, as often we see two Indias, and you see this everywhere, whether it's the consumer world or whether it's the enterprise world. We see some people who are as cutting edge and as expectant of technology and what it can drive for them in terms of change, and then you see the rest of the people who are waiting for it to become mainstream before they adopt it themselves. So I'd like to think that India is beginning to catch on as a generic whole, is beginning to catch on to the concept of APM. There is really no point in spending so much money on applications and on technology if you're not going to spend a little bit to ensure that technology behaves the way it was designed to do. So that's what we're seeing right now. I think we've already started seeing the trend where some early adopters, or some, we call them innovators. Some innovators are able to see the big picture. Technology for the sake of technology is a waste of money. It'll only make the vendors happy. Technology with a business angle behind it, technology that's used to either reduce a problem that you're facing, or technology that's used to give your organization competitive advantage. We are seeing a few people. At this point, I would call them brave people, right? But we're seeing a lot of people doing this. And we hope the rest of the industry catches up soon. I think if the last 20 years has taught us anything, it's that we are not isolated. We are not as isolated from global trends as some of us would like to think. I mean, the US went through a slowdown 10 years back because of subprime and everything else. We are seeing a slowdown, not necessarily a slowdown, but uncertainty in the Indian market as well, right? We never thought India Incorporated would do layoffs and things like that, but we've heard of these things happening in the Indian context as well. So the smart Indian CIO or the smart Indian organization will say, what's happening globally is happening globally for a reason. It's a combination of forces that might create the same situation in India at some point in time. Let me make sure that I'm prepared for this eventuality, and let me protect my organization from its repercussions. So we are seeing, to answer your specific question, we are seeing a lot of people now saying, let's not look at India in isolation. Let's not look at ourselves as a monopolistic market, because clearly with the exception of the railways, there really is no monopoly in India anymore, right? I mean, every other service is extremely hyper-competitive, whether you look at banking and financial services, whether you look at e-commerce, you look at travel websites. Pretty much every company here is struggling for two things: customer acquisition, and the second most important thing, customer retention and profit from the same customer. So the first rule of growing your business is don't shrink your business. So don't lose the customers that you've struggled so hard to win. So we are seeing a lot of people now take initiatives towards providing a differentiation and customer experience, and that's what's going to drive the adoption of APM moving forward. The banks are the first people to adopt application performance management solutions. The banks and the payment gateways, simply because every single transaction in a banking environment or a payment environment is a financial transaction. It has a certain amount of money associated with it, and if that money gets lost, you wonder why, where's it going? So they're the logical choice of target customers who benefit the most from application performance management. But again, like you correlate a bank and a payment transaction, similarly we can equate this to e-commerce and travel, because again that's where the spends happen, and financial transactions get lost. It causes a lot of pain and a lot of heartburn. Also, a lot of these companies which are service-based are beginning to realize that a bulk of their revenue comes from the same customers over and over and over again. So if you're using a particular travel portal, if you're happy with the customer service experience that the travel portal is giving you, you're not going to go and change the travel portal for another, no matter how compelling the price difference is. And we don't think there's too much price differentiation between people at this point in time. It's been a tough journey. I will be the first to admit that, and we've had to go one-to-one to enterprises and explain to the CIOs and explain to business owners why they need to get onto this APM journey, as we call it, because even though we are the world's best provider of APM solutions, we don't think it's necessarily going to work without a process or without a methodology behind it. The large part of the last 2 years for us has been in taking customers down the awareness journey with us as to what are the benefits for your organization if you have an APM methodology, if you adopt APM best practices, and more importantly, have a solution that provides the APM framework for your organization. So, like I said, 10% has kind of been extremely proactive and said, these are the problems I'm facing. This is the solution I was looking for but never knew existed. With 90%, we are still we're still struggling to help them get over the status quo and the fear of the unknown. Because, quite frankly, CIO jobs today are tough. There's so much complexity out there. They spend a large part of their time managing all this complexity. But, we're working with them and encouraging them to see the bigger picture, that the best way to deal with the complexity is to have application performance built in at the time of the application, design itself. Compuware's roadmap for India, quite, like I said, at this point in time, it's the process of education. By virtue of the value proposition our solution brings, we've succeeded in winning the number one and number two players in a few of our target verticals. We think the next step of our journey, obviously, is to make sure that using the successes and showing the value to these number one and number two players in their vertical industries, we're able to reach a larger part of the market. And we're willing to invest in the market, build up capability internally, as well as build up capability through our channel partners. We've already started building capability with some of the large global systems integrators, who are, of course, using the skills that we are providing here for performance-oriented projects in a global context.